The command center of the Zephrian battle cruiser Dominant Thunder hummed with the low-frequency vibrations of advanced alien technology. Admiral Zentar stood before the massive holographic display, his forearms crossed behind his chitinous back as he observed the small blue planet rotating slowly in the projection. Around him, his senior officers buzzed with excited chatter, their mandibles clicking in what passed for laughter among their species. "Look at them," Commander Velnash pointed at the display with one of her razor-sharp appendages. "They still use primitive projectile weapons. Bullets. Can you imagine? While we have plasma rifles and energy shields, these humans are still throwing bits of metal at each other." The hologram zoomed in on various human military installations scattered across Earth's surface. Satellite imagery showed human soldiers training with what the Zephirians considered laughably outdated equipment. Rifles, sniper weapons, conventional explosives, all of it seemed like ancient history compared to their advanced arsenal. Admiral Zentar's vertical pupils dilated as he focused on a particular military base. Their longest recorded kill shot is, 3,000 of their meters. Our standard plasma rifle can vaporize targets at 10,000 meters with perfect accuracy every time. These creatures are barely evolved beyond throwing rocks. "Sir," Intelligence Officer Crixton approached with data tablets clutched in his secondary hands. "I've completed the analysis of their military doctrine. It's primitive beyond belief. They actually rely on individual skill rather than technology. They train their soldiers for years just to improve their aim by small percentages. Their snipers, their so-called elite marksmen, spend decades learning to account for wind, gravity, and atmosphere pressure. Decades. Our computers calculate all of that in nanoseconds." The bridge erupted in chittering laughter. Several junior officers had to support themselves on nearby consoles as they were overcome with amusement at the thought of such inefficiency. "They have soldiers who specialize in lying motionless for days," Crixton continued, reading from his tablet. "Days, waiting for a single-shot opportunity. They call it patience and skill. We call it technological backwardness." Admiral Zentar raised one of his primary hands for silence. The bridge immediately quieted, though several officers still struggled to contain their amusement. "Gentlemen, ladies, as entertaining as this analysis is, we must not forget our mission. The Galactic Council has declared this system off-limits to further expansion until these humans prove themselves worthy of advanced contact. Some bleeding hearts believe every species deserves a chance to evolve naturally." Commander Velnash's exoskeleton shifted color slightly, indicating her disagreement. "With respect, Admiral, the Council is being far too generous. These humans had their chance. They've been at their current technological level for 50 of their years. They've barely scratched the surface of faster-than-light travel. Their energy weapons are non-existent, and their defensive capabilities are laughable." The Council specifically mentioned their military prowess. Another officer chimed in. "They seem to think these humans might have some hidden capabilities we haven't observed. But what could creatures this primitive possibly do against our forces?" Admiral Zentar activated a tactical display showing Zephrian military assets throughout the galaxy. Massive dreadnoughts, planetary siege weapons, armies of mechanized warriors, the accumulated might of an empire that had conquered 12 star systems. Officer Multan makes a valid point. "We've analyzed their entire military structure. No energy shields, no plasma weapons, no gravity manipulation technology. They're still using chemical propulsion for space travel, for the love of the Great Swarm." The holographic display shifted to show human spacecraft. Crude metal boxes with primitive rocket engines that looked like museum pieces compared to Zephrian technology. Their space stations were held together with what appeared to be welded metal joints and powered by nuclear reactors that the Zephirians had outgrown centuries ago. Their naval vessels still flowed on the surface of their oceans, Commander Velnash added with obvious disdain. "They haven't even mastered underwater propulsion systems. Their aircraft require air-breathing engines. They're practically Stone Age by our standards." Intelligence Officer Crixton brought up another set of data. "I've been monitoring their military communications, Admiral. They actually use radio waves for battlefield coordination. Radio waves. We can intercept every order, every tactical plan, every strategic decision they make. They might as well be shouting their intentions across the battlefield. What about their numbers? Asked one of the junior officers. Surely they have population advantages. Admiral Zentar's mandibles clicked dismissively. 8 billion individuals total. Of those, perhaps 50 million have any military training whatsoever. We have automated defense systems that could handle their entire armed forces without a single Zephrian soldier leaving the barracks. Our battle drones alone outnumber their active military personnel 3-1. The conversation was interrupted by a soft chime indicating an incoming transmission. The communications officer, a young Zephrian with fresh chitin still gleaming purple, looked up from his station. Admiral, we're receiving a priority message from High Command. Put it through, Zentar ordered. The holographic display flickered and was replaced by the imposing figure of Supreme Commander Thexmore, his ancient exoskeleton bearing the scars of countless battles across the galaxy. Admiral Zentar, the Galactic Council has rendered their decision regarding the human question. Every officer on the bridge snapped to attention. Supreme Commander Thexmore was a legend. He had personally led the conquest of 6 different star systems and had never lost a single major engagement. The Council has voted to grant the humans one final opportunity to demonstrate their worthiness. Thexmore continued. You are to establish a small outpost on their third moon and conduct limited engagement protocols. If they prove capable of offering meaningful resistance, they will be granted provisional membership in the galactic community. If not, the implication hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Everyone knew what happened to species that failed the Council's tests. Subjugation, resource extraction, forced relocation to reservation worlds. Sir, Admiral Zentar stepped forward. What level of resistance are we expecting? Our intelligence suggests they possess no weapons capable of threatening our shields or armor. Supreme Commander Thexmore's image flickered slightly due to the vast distance the communication was traveling. The Council has reviewed the same intelligence reports you have, Admiral. They seem to believe that humans possess some quality that our analysis has missed. Something about their adaptability and resourcefulness under pressure. Personally, I think the Council is being overly cautious, but orders are orders. Commander Velnash couldn't contain herself. Supreme Commander, with respect, we've observed their largest military exercises. Their tactics are predictable, their equipment is primitive, and their response times are measured in minutes when ours are measured in seconds. What could they possibly do against even our smallest patrol vessels? That's exactly what we're going to find out, Commander, Thexmore replied. You have authorization to use minimal force, a single company of our basic infantry units. No heavy weapons, no orbital support, no advanced tactical systems. If these humans are as primitive as our reports suggest, 100 of our soldiers should be more than sufficient to secure complete surrender. The bridge officers exchanged glances. A single company was usually reserved for policing actions against completely helpless populations. It was almost insulting to assign so few resources to what should be the conquest of an entire planet. When do we begin the operation? Admiral Zentar asked. Immediately. Establish your outpost, deploy your company, and begin engagement protocols within 72 standard hours. The Council wants this matter resolved quickly so they can move on to more pressing galactic affairs. As the communication ended, the bridge fell silent for a moment. Then, Commander Velnash let out a sound that might have been a sigh if Zephrians had lungs. 100 soldiers, against an entire planet. High Command must really think these humans are helpless. Can you blame them? Intelligence Officer Crixton waved his tablet. Look at this data. Their most advanced fighter aircraft are barely capable of supersonic flight. Our atmospheric scouts could outmaneuver their entire air force without breaking a sweat. Their ground vehicles are essentially metal boxes with wheels. They don't even have proper energy weapons. Admiral Zentar began issuing orders with the practiced efficiency of a career military officer. Navigation, set course for the third moon of the human homeworld. Engineering, prepare a standard outpost deployment package. Communications, send word to Captain Zurgoth that his company has been selected for ground operations. And someone give me a full tactical analysis of human military capabilities. I want to know exactly how quickly we can wrap this up. As the massive battle cruiser adjusted its course and began accelerating toward Earth, the mood on the bridge was one of casual confidence. This wasn't a military campaign. It was a formality. A simple demonstration to satisfy the Galactic Council's bureaucratic requirements before the inevitable conquest. None of them suspected that in less than a week, that same casual confidence would be replaced by something the Zephrian Empire had rarely experienced in their centuries of galactic dominance: genuine fear. The lunar surface of Earth's third moon had never seen construction like this. Massive Zephrian constructor drones descended from the dominant thunder like mechanical insects, their anti-gravity engines kicking up clouds of dust that would have been impossible in an atmosphere. Within 6 hours, they had assembled a fully functional military outpost complete with energy barriers, communication arrays, and automated defense systems. Captain Zurgoth stood in the command center of the newly constructed base, his 4 arms working efficiently across multiple control interfaces. The deployment had gone flawlessly, exactly as it had during hundreds of similar operations across the galaxy. His company of 100 Zephrian soldiers was already settling into their quarters, checking their plasma rifles and energy shields with the casual confidence of warriors who had never known defeat. "Sir," Sergeant Klixmar approached with a data pad clutched in his secondary hand. "Perimeter sensors are fully operational. We have complete coverage of the lunar surface for 50 kilometers in all directions. Any movement larger than a small meteorite will trigger our detection grid." "Excellent," Zurgoth replied without looking up from his tactical displays. "What about our surveillance of the planet below?" "Full-spectrum monitoring is active. We're tracking all human military installations, communication networks, and population centers. Their response so far has been interesting." That got the captain's attention. He turned his vertical pupils toward his sergeant. "Interesting how?" Klixmar activated a holographic display showing Earth's surface. Red dots indicated areas of increased human military activity. They've scrambled their primitive aircraft, mobilized several army divisions, and activated what they call emergency protocols. Their leaders are holding urgent meetings. Their communication networks are buzzing with activity. "They're panicking," Zurgoth concluded with satisfaction. "Good. Fear will make them more likely to surrender quickly when we begin surface operations." "That's just it, sir." Klixmar hesitated. "They don't appear to be panicking. Our linguistic analysis suggests they're excited. Their military personnel are using phrases like 'finally' and 'let's show them what we can do.' It's almost as if they've been waiting for this opportunity." Captain Zurgoth's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his species. "Sergeant, these creatures still use projectile weapons. They're probably excited because they think this will be some glorious battle from their primitive history books. They have no concept of what modern warfare actually looks like. When they see our energy shields deflect their bullets and watch our plasma rifles vaporize their vehicles, that excitement will turn to terror very quickly." 300 kilometers below them, in a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Patricia Hayes was having a very different conversation. The war room was filled with the controlled chaos of a military operation spinning up to full capacity. Digital displays showed satellite feeds, troop movements, and real-time intelligence updates from around the globe. "Ma'am," Colonel Martinez handed her a secure tablet. "Initial analysis is complete. We're looking at a standard reconnaissance outpost with approximately 100 hostile personnel. Their technology is significantly advanced. Energy-based weapons, protective shields, and construction capabilities we can't match." General Hayes studied the tablet for a moment, her weathered face betraying no emotion. She had commanded troops in 3 major conflicts and had seen humanity's capacity for adaptation under pressure. "What are our assets in the region?" "We've got every sniper team from Fort Bragg, Quantico, and the Mountain Division converging on Colorado. The President has authorized Operation Longshot, full mobilization of our precision marksman program. Every shooter with a confirmed 1,000-meter kill is being flown in." "How many are we talking about?" 43 teams, ma'am. 86 shooters total. The best humanity has to offer." General Hayes allowed herself a small smile. 86 against 100. "I like those odds, Mom." Colonel Martinez looked confused. "The intelligence reports suggest these aliens have technology centuries beyond ours. Their weapons can destroy our vehicles, their shields can stop our bullets, and they have sensors that can detect movement from incredible distances." "Colonel," General Hayes set down the tablet and looked at the main display showing the alien outpost. What do you know about Staff Sergeant Maria Vasquez? The Marine sniper? She holds the record for longest confirmed kill at 2,847 meters. She also once remained motionless in a sniper hide for 6 days straight during the Hellman operation. No food, minimal water, waiting for one shot at a high-value target. When she finally took that shot, she eliminated 3 enemy combatants with 3 bullets fired in under 4 seconds. General Hayes walked over to the main display. What do you know about Chief Petty Officer James Chen? Navy SEAL sniper. Multiple combat deployments. He once crawled for 11 hours through a swamp to reach a firing position, then waited another 14 hours for his target to appear. When he fired, the target was eliminated from over a mile away in hurricane-force winds. She turned to face Martinez. These aliens think they understand human warfare because they've observed our equipment. They've never observed our people. Back on the lunar outpost, Captain Zurgoth was reviewing the deployment schedule for surface operations when his communications officer interrupted him with an urgent message. Sir, we're detecting unusual activity on the planet's surface. Multiple small groups of humans are moving toward various positions around the projected landing zone. Military units? Unknown, sir. The groups are very small, 2 or 3 individuals each. They're using vehicles, then abandoning them and proceeding on foot. They appear to be carrying equipment, but our sensors can't determine the exact nature from this distance. Zurgoth brought up the tactical display. Dozens of red dots were converging on a wide area around the planned landing zone. How many groups total? 43 separate movements, sir. Approximately 90 individuals total. They're spreading out across an area of several hundred square kilometers. Interesting, Zurgoth mused. They're attempting to establish some kind of perimeter, probably hoping to slow our advance with their primitive weapons while their main forces mobilize. He activated the communication system to address his company. All units, prepare for surface deployment. It appears the humans want to put up some token resistance before surrendering. We'll indulge them briefly, then proceed with standard pacification protocols. The response from his troops was immediate and enthusiastic. Combat-tested Zephrian soldiers eager to add another easy victory to their records. Their plasma rifles were charged, their energy shields were calibrated, and their confidence was absolute. What none of them realized was that at that very moment, nearly 50 of humanity's most deadly individuals were settling into carefully prepared positions across the Colorado landscape. Men and women who had spent years perfecting the art of the precise, lethal shot. Soldiers who understood that sometimes the most advanced technology in the galaxy couldn't compensate for patience, skill, and the willingness to remain absolutely still until the perfect moment presented itself. Staff Sergeant Maria Vasquez lay motionless behind her rifle, a .50 caliber Barrett M107 that had been her companion through 4 combat deployments. She had been in this position for 6 hours already, having hiked 12 miles through rough terrain in complete darkness to reach it. Her spotter, Corporal Thompson, lay beside her with high-powered optics and a range calculator. "Range to the landing zone," she whispered, her voice barely audible even to Thompson lying 3 feet away. 2,100 meters. Wind is steady from the east at 8 miles per hour. Temperature is dropping, so we'll need to account for increasing air density. Vasquez made microscopic adjustments to her scope. She had fired this rifle thousands of times, in every conceivable condition. She knew exactly how the bullet would behave at this range, in this weather, at this elevation. More importantly, she knew how to wait. A mile and a half to the south, Chief Petty Officer James Chun was making his own calculations. His position offered a different angle on the landing zone, and his M24 sniper rifle was zeroed for the specific atmospheric conditions at this altitude. His spotter was tracking wind patterns through the valley, noting how they shifted with the changing temperature. Movement on the lunar surface, his spotter reported quietly. Looks like they're preparing to launch some kind of transport. Time at target zone, approximately 30 minutes based on the trajectory we're observing. Chun settled more deeply into his position. 30 minutes was nothing. He had waited much longer for much less important targets. These aliens might have superior technology, but they were about to learn that some advantages couldn't be measured in energy output or computational power. Across the valley, similar conversations were taking place as 43 sniper teams made their final preparations. Each team had studied the intelligence reports, analyzed the enemy capabilities, and reached the same conclusion. Their conventional advantages meant nothing if they couldn't identify the threat until it was too late. The aliens were expecting a traditional battle with conventional forces, predictable tactics, and outdated weapons. Instead, they were about to face something their advanced sensors and tactical computers had never been programmed to counter. Human beings who could think, adapt, and kill with a precision that no amount of technology could replicate. Captain Zurgoth watched the first transport launch from the lunar outpost toward Earth's surface. Inside were 20 of his best soldiers, armed with the finest weapons the Zephrian Empire could provide, and protected by personal energy shields that could deflect anything the humans might throw at them. It never occurred to him to wonder whether his shields had been tested against human ingenuity. The Zephrian transport touched down on Earth's surface with the gentle precision of advanced anti-gravity technology. 20 elite soldiers emerged from the craft, their movements efficient and coordinated as they established a perimeter around the landing zone. Each warrior was encased in powered armor that gleamed with an iridescent blue energy field, personal shields capable of deflecting projectiles, energy blasts, and explosive fragments. Lieutenant Mexthor stepped out of the transport last, his command armor displaying tactical information directly onto his visual interface. Temperature readings, atmospheric analysis, gravitational measurements, every detail he needed to operate effectively in this alien environment. Most importantly, his motion sensors showed no immediate threats within a 3-kilometer radius. Perimeter secure, he reported back to the lunar outpost through his advanced communication system. No hostile contact detected. Beginning advance toward primary objective. Captain Zurgoth's voice crackled through the communicator with satisfaction. Excellent, Lieutenant. Intelligence suggests the nearest human military installation is approximately 15 kilometers to the east. Proceed with standard pacification protocols. Show them the futility of resistance. Then, await their surrender. The squad began moving through the Colorado wilderness with the confident stride of soldiers who had never faced serious opposition. Their plasma rifles were charged and ready, their sensors constantly swept the surrounding terrain, and their energy shields hummed with protective power. According to every tactical analysis they possessed, no weapon in the human arsenal could penetrate their defenses. Staff Sergeant Maria Vasquez watched them through her scope from her concealed position 2,100 meters away. She had been motionless for nearly 8 hours, her body perfectly still despite the cold mountain air and the cramped confines of her hide. Beside her, Corporal Thompson tracked the alien soldiers' movement patterns and calculated firing solutions. 20 targets, Thompson whispered, his voice barely audible. Moving in standard formation. Energy shields appear to be active on all targets. I can see the shields, Vasquez replied softly, her eye never leaving the scope. Notice how they're not covering the joints completely. There's a gap at the neck where the armor connects to the helmet. Range is 2,150 meters and increasing as they move east. Wind has shifted slightly, now coming from the northeast at 6 miles per hour. Vasquez made minute adjustments to her scope, compensating for the changing conditions. Her breathing was slow and controlled, her heartbeat steady despite the adrenaline she could feel building in her system. This was what she had trained for her entire career, the perfect shot under impossible circumstances. Lead target is showing a consistent gap in shield coverage, she observed. Right side of the neck, approximately 2 centimeters wide. The shield energy pattern appears to follow the armor contours, which means whoever designed their defenses never considered precision targeting, Thompson finished. They built their shields to stop area attacks and energy weapons, not surgical strikes. Vasquez allowed herself a small smile. Exactly. They're thinking like people who have never faced a real marksman. She settled into her firing position, her body becoming one with the rifle. Range, 2,180 meters. Target is maintaining steady pace on predictable heading. Wind is stable. Lieutenant Mexthor was reviewing tactical displays on his armor interface when his second-in-command approached with a status report. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting some kind of electromagnetic signatures in the surrounding hills. Could be human electronic equipment. Probably their primitive radio communications. Mech Thor replied, dismissively. Their technology is so crude that it creates electromagnetic interference just by functioning. Continue the advance. What his sensors were actually detecting was the advanced optical equipment being used by 43 sniper teams, all of whom were now tracking the alien patrol's movement with deadly precision. Scopes, range finders, and digital targeting systems that had been refined through decades of human conflict were locked onto the advancing soldiers. Target acquired, Vasquez whispered. Her breathing slowed to an almost meditative rhythm. The world narrowed to the view through her scope. A single alien soldier moving with mechanical precision through the valley below. She could see the gap in his energy shield, a tiny vulnerability in what appeared to be impenetrable defense. The Barrett M107 fired with a sound that echoed across the valley like thunder. The .50 caliber bullet, nearly half an inch in diameter and weighing over 700 grains, left the barrel at over 2,800 feet per second. It covered the 2,180 meters to its target in less than 3 seconds, maintaining devastating kinetic energy despite the distance. Lieutenant Mech Thor's head simply disappeared. The massive bullet found a narrow gap in his energy shield with surgical precision and struck him in the neck with enough force to sever his spine and destroy most of his upper vertebrae. His body collapsed instantly, the advanced armor systems struggling to process the catastrophic damage before shutting down completely. For a moment, the remaining 19 Zephrian soldiers stood frozen in confusion. Their tactical computers had registered the sound of the weapon firing, but the source was so distant that their sensors couldn't pinpoint its location. More troubling, their lieutenant's bio readings had simply vanished, not indicating injury or damage, but complete system failure. Contact! Sergeant Dexlar's voice cut through the confusion as he knelt beside his fallen commander. Lieutenant is down. Hostile fire from unknown source. That was when the real nightmare began. Chief Petty Officer James Chun had been tracking a different target from his position 1,847 meters to the south. When he heard Vasquez's shot echo across the valley, he knew the engagement had begun. His M24 sniper rifle was already aimed at a Zephrian soldier who had just taken cover behind a boulder, leaving only his weapon arm and a small portion of his torso exposed. Chin's shot came 3 seconds after Vasquez's. His bullet, smaller, but fired with equal precision, found a narrow gap between the alien's armor and chest plate. The soldier spun and fell, his plasma rifle clattering across the rocks. Across the valley, 41 other sniper teams began engaging their assigned targets. The sound was like a rolling thunderstorm as high-powered rifles fired in rapid succession from concealed positions scattered across dozens of square kilometers. Each shot was precisely aimed, carefully calculated, and delivered by marksmen who had spent years perfecting their craft. Sergeant Dexlar watched in horror as his soldiers began falling one by one, each death coming from a different direction and at a different range. Their energy shields, designed to stop energy weapons and explosive fragments, were useless against precision-aimed kinetic projectiles that found the tiny gaps in their coverage. "Where are they firing from?" he screamed into his communicator, spinning in circles as he tried to locate the enemy positions. The answer came from Lieutenant Shun, firing his second shot of the engagement. This bullet struck another Zephrian soldier who was attempting to find cover behind the transport craft. The shot found the gap between his helmet and chest armor, ending the threat instantly. All units return fire. Dexlar ordered desperately. Sweep the ridgelines with plasma bursts. The surviving Zephrian soldiers began firing their energy weapons wildly into the surrounding hills. Brilliant blue-white plasma bolts lit up the landscape, vaporizing trees, boiling away sections of rock, and creating impressive displays of destructive power. None of their shots came within 500 meters of a single human position. The aliens' advanced targeting systems were designed for close to medium-range engagements against enemies with comparable technology. They had never been programmed to counter threats at extreme distances using primitive weapons that left almost no electromagnetic signature. Staff Sergeant Vasquez was already lining up her second shot. The enemy's return fire was spectacular, but completely ineffective. They were shooting as shadows while she had clear visual confirmation of her targets. Her second bullet found another gap in another alien's defenses, adding to the growing pile of bodies in the valley below. "This is Dexlar to base command," the surviving Zephrian sergeant called frantically into his communicator. "We are under attack by unknown forces. Request immediate support." Captain Zurgotha's voice came back confused and irritated. "Sergeant, our sensors show no major human forces in your area. Are you taking fire from a small patrol unit?" "Sir, they're killing us." Dexlar's voice cracked with something the Zephrian Empire rarely heard from its soldiers: panic. "Precise shots from impossible distances. Our shields are useless. They're picking us off one by one, and we can't even see them." On the lunar base, Captain Zurgoth stared at his tactical displays in growing confusion. His biomonitors showed that 12 of the 20 soldiers in the patrol were already down, but his long-range sensors detected no large human forces, no vehicle movements, no massive weapon signatures. According to his instruments, there was nothing in that valley capable of threatening advanced Zephrian troops. "Sergeant, are you certain you're under coordinated attack? Our analysis suggests the humans lack the technology for effective long-range engagement." The answer came in the form of another rifle shot echoing across the valley. Sergeant Dexlar watched his communications specialist collapse as a bullet found the narrow gap in his armor coverage. "Sir," Dexlar's voice was now barely controlled terror, "they're hunting us." And in hidden positions across the Colorado landscape, 43 teams of human marksmen continued their patient, precise work. Each shot was calculated. Each target was carefully selected. Each trigger pull was the result of years of training, months of preparation, and hours of patient waiting. The Zephrian Empire was about to learn that sometimes the most devastating weapons in the universe were wielded by individuals who understood that true precision couldn't be programmed into a computer or built into a machine. It had to be earned. Captain Zurgoth stared at his tactical display in disbelief as the biosignatures of his ground patrol continued to disappear one by one. In 30 minutes of engagement, 18 of his 20 elite soldiers were confirmed dead, and the remaining 2 were pinned down behind their transport craft, unable to move without exposing themselves to what appeared to be an invisible enemy. "This is impossible," he muttered, his 4 arms working frantically across multiple control interfaces. "Our soldiers are equipped with the finest technology in the galaxy. These humans are using primitive projectile weapons. How are they achieving this level of precision?" Intelligence Officer Crixton approached with fresh data, his usual confidence replaced by obvious confusion. "Sir, I've completed a detailed analysis of the engagement. The human weapons are indeed primitive chemical propellant firearms, but their accuracy is unprecedented. They're achieving kill shots at ranges exceeding 2,000 meters with what appears to be perfect precision." "Perfect precision?" Zurgotha's mandibles clicked with agitation. "That's impossible with their technology level. Their weapons don't have computer-assisted targeting. They don't have environmental compensation systems. They're essentially throwing metal projectiles and hoping they hit something." "Sir," Crixton hesitated, "I don't think they're hoping. I think they're aiming." On the Lunar Command Center's main display, thermal imaging showed the battlefield below. The 2 surviving Zephrian soldiers were huddled behind their transport, while scattered across the surrounding hills were dozens of tiny heat signatures, individual humans who had been invisible to the sensors until the shooting started. "How many are there?" Zurgoth demanded. Based on muzzle flash analysis and sound triangulation, approximately 80 to 90 individual shooters positioned across a 40-square-kilometer area. Each one appears to be operating independently, with no detectable electronic communication between positions. 90 humans with primitive weapons have eliminated 18 of our best soldiers. "Yes, sir." "And they're still engaging. Our remaining ground forces report continued incoming fire every time they attempt to move from cover." Captain Zurgoth felt something he had never experienced in 2 decades of military service: uncertainty. The tactical situation made no sense according to any military doctrine he had studied. These humans weren't using advanced technology, weren't employing superior numbers, and weren't even coordinating their attacks through electronic communication. Yet they had achieved complete tactical dominance over a technologically superior force. "Deploy the second wave," he ordered finally. 40 soldiers this time, with aerial reconnaissance support. These humans may be accurate with their primitive weapons, but they can't hide from thermal imaging and they can't shoot down our atmospheric scouts. Sergeant Dexlar crouched behind the transport craft, his energy shield flickering as it recharged from the multiple impacts it had absorbed. His last remaining soldier, Private Nextel, was checking his equipment with the desperate efficiency of someone who knew death was hunting him. "Sergeant," Nextel whispered, "I've been analyzing the attack pattern. The humans aren't firing randomly. Each shot is precisely aimed at the vulnerable points in our armor. They know exactly where our shield coverage is weakest." "How was that possible?" Dexlar asked. "They've never encountered our technology before. How could they identify our vulnerabilities so quickly?" Before Nextel could answer, the transport craft shuddered as a massive bullet struck its hull. The projectile didn't penetrate the advanced armor, but the impact was violent enough to remind both soldiers that they were trapped in an increasingly hopeless situation. "Because they're watching us," Nextel realized suddenly. "They're not just shooting, they're studying us. Learning our equipment, our tactics, our weaknesses. Every shot they take teaches them something new about how to kill us more effectively." 2,000 meters away, Staff Sergeant Vasquez was indeed studying the aliens' defensive behavior through her scope. She had watched how they moved, how they took cover, and, most importantly, how their energy shields functioned under stress. What she had discovered was both encouraging and terrifying. "Their shields have a recharge cycle," she explained quietly to her spotter. "After absorbing multiple impacts, they flicker for approximately 0.3 seconds while the system resets. During that window, they're completely vulnerable." Corporal Thompson tracked the aliens' positions through his spotting scope. "So we need to time our shots to hit during the recharge phase?" "Exactly, which means coordination between multiple shooters." Vasquez activated her encrypted radio, a short-range burst transmission that would be difficult for alien sensors to detect. "All stations, this is Longshot 1. I'm sharing targeting data on alien defensive systems. Recommend coordinated fire patterns to exploit shield vulnerabilities." Across the valley, 42 other sniper teams received the transmission and began adjusting their tactics accordingly. The humans were doing something the Zephrian military computers had never anticipated. They were learning and adapting in real time, sharing information and modifying their approach based on battlefield observation. The Zephrian reinforcements arrived 30 minutes later. 40 soldiers in improved armor configurations, accompanied by 3 atmospheric reconnaissance drones designed to locate and eliminate hidden threats. Captain Zurgoth watched from the lunar base as his enhanced force deployed across the battlefield with renewed confidence. "Sir," the communications officer reported, "ground forces are reporting improved sensor contacts. The reconnaissance drones are detecting multiple human heat signatures throughout the engagement zone." "Excellent," Zurgoth replied. "Target those positions with precision plasma strikes. Show these primitives what real marksmanship looks like." The first Zephrian reconnaissance drone swooped low over the valley, its advanced sensor scanning for human positions. Its thermal imaging immediately identified a heat signature behind a cluster of rocks approximately 1,800 meters from the alien landing zone. The drone's plasma cannon charged with lethal energy as it prepared to eliminate the threat. Chief Petty Officer Chun watched the alien aircraft approach through his rifle scope. He had been waiting for this moment, having observed the drone's flight pattern for the past 10 minutes. Unlike the ground-based aliens, the aerial reconnaissance unit didn't have personal energy shields. Its protection came from speed and advanced maneuverability. But Chun had spent 5 years hunting insurgents who used similar tactics, fast-moving targets that relied on unpredictable movement to avoid ground fire. He had learned that even the most erratic flight pattern had moments of stability, brief windows when a skilled marksman could predict exactly where the target would be. His .50 caliber bullet struck the reconnaissance drone's main sensor array at 1,847 meters, traveling at over 2,700 feet per second. The impact destroyed the aircraft's guidance system, sending it spiraling out of control before it crashed into a distant hillside in a spectacular explosion. "Reconnaissance Drone 1 is down," the communications officer reported in shock. These humans shot down an aerial vehicle with a handheld weapon. Captain Zurgoth's vertical pupils dilated with surprise. That's impossible. Their projectile weapons don't have the range or accuracy to engage aerial targets. Sir, I'm looking at the wreckage. Direct hit on the primary sensor cluster. Whoever fired that shot calculated the aircraft's speed, trajectory, and flight pattern perfectly. A second later, another rifle shot echoed across the valley. The second reconnaissance drone, attempting to evade after witnessing its companion's destruction, suddenly lost control and plummeted toward the ground. Staff Sergeant Maria Vasquez had put her bullet through its engine intake, causing catastrophic system failure. Within 5 minutes, all 3 reconnaissance drones were burning wreckage scattered across the Colorado landscape. Ow! Sagoth demanded. How are they doing this? Intelligence Officer Crixton was frantically analyzing sensor data when he made a discovery that would change everything. Sir, I've been studying the human firing patterns, and I think I understand what's happening. These aren't random soldiers with standard equipment. Based on their accuracy and tactical deployment, I believe we're facing their absolute elite, specialists who have spent years perfecting these skills. Elite specialists? These humans barely have faster-than-light travel. How elite could their soldiers possibly be? Sir, Crixton's voice carried a note of genuine concern. I've run trajectory analysis on every shot fired in this engagement. The average accuracy rate is 94%, at ranges exceeding 2,000 meters, in variable weather conditions, using weapons with no electronic assistance whatsoever. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Are you telling me, Captain Zurgoth said slowly, that these humans have achieved near-perfect accuracy through individual skill alone? Yes, sir. And there's more. I've detected evidence of real-time tactical adaptation. They're sharing information, coordinating attacks, and modifying their approaches based on our defensive measures, without electronic communication systems that we can intercept. How is that possible? I believe they're using short-range burst transmissions, coded signals, and possibly hand signals coordinated through optical equipment. They're communicating in ways our sensors weren't designed to detect. On the battlefield below, the 40 Zephrian reinforcements were discovering that their improved armor and enhanced tactics made little difference against an enemy that refused to fight according to any recognizable military doctrine. The humans weren't advancing to meet them in battle. They weren't retreating when faced with superior firepower. They were simply lying motionless in concealed positions, waiting patiently for the perfect shot, then disappearing again before return fire could locate them. "This is Commander Rexmar to Lunar Base," came a transmission from the ground forces leader. "We're taking casualties faster than we can advance. These humans are operating outside all known tactical parameters. They appear to have infinite patience, perfect coordination, and accuracy that defies explanation. Can you locate their positions?" "Sir, every time we think we've identified a firing position, we assault it and find nothing. These humans are moving between concealed locations, setting up new firing positions, and engaging us from completely unexpected directions. It's like fighting ghosts." Captain Zurgoth realized with growing alarm that he was witnessing something unprecedented in Zephrian military history. A technologically inferior force was defeating superior troops through pure skill and tactical innovation. "All units," he broadcast to his remaining forces, "pull back to the landing zone and establish a defensive perimeter. We need time to reassess this situation." But even as his soldiers attempted to retreat, the human snipers continued their patient work. Every movement, every attempt to change position, every moment of exposure was met with precise, devastating fire from an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. For the first time in his military career, Captain Zurgoth began to wonder if the Galactic Council might have been right about these humans after all. Admiral Zentar stood before the command console aboard the Dominant Thunder, his forearms trembling slightly as he processed the latest reports from the surface. In less than 6 hours, what should have been a simple pacification operation had turned into the worst military disaster in recent Zephrian history. 60 elite soldiers deployed to the surface. 47 confirmed dead. The remainder trapped in defensive positions, unable to move without facing immediate death from an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't predict, and couldn't counter. "Sir," Commander Velnash approached with obvious reluctance, "we've received an urgent communication from High Command. Supreme Commander Thexmore is requesting a detailed explanation for our difficulties. Difficulties? Zentar's mandibles clicked with bitter irony. Commander, we're being systematically eliminated by humans using weapons we considered obsolete before our grandparents were hatched. How do I explain that to High Command? The main display showed the lunar base itself under observation from Earth's surface. Long-range telescopic equipment was tracking their every movement, and intelligence reports suggested that human military forces were calculating firing solutions for weapons that shouldn't have been able to reach their position. Sir, Intelligence Officer Crixton interrupted with new data. I've completed a comprehensive analysis of human military capabilities based on this engagement. The results are troubling. Define troubling. These humans don't just possess individual marksmanship skills, sir. They've developed a complete tactical doctrine based on precision, patience, and adaptability. Every sniper team operates independently, but coordinates through methods our sensors can't detect. They've been observing our technology, learning our weaknesses, and adapting their tactics in real time. Admiral Zentar studied the tactical display showing Earth's surface. Red dots indicated known human sniper positions, but intelligence estimated there were twice as many teams that remained completely undetected. What are you telling me, officer? I'm telling you, sir, that we've encountered a species that has weaponized patience itself. While we've been developing bigger guns and stronger shields, they've been perfecting the art of the perfect shot. They don't need advanced technology because they've achieved something we never considered possible: absolute precision through individual skill. On the lunar surface, Captain Zurgoth was facing a decision that would define the rest of his military career. His remaining soldiers were pinned down in defensive positions around the outpost, unable to advance or retreat without facing immediate elimination from human marksmen whose positions remained unknown despite intensive scanning. Sir, came the desperate voice of Sergeant Dexlar from the surface. We've been under continuous observation for the past 4 hours. Every time one of our soldiers moves, they have a firing solution ready within seconds. It's like they can predict our actions before we make them. Have you identified any of their positions? We've located 3 confirmed sniper hides, sir, but when we attempted to assault them, we found sophisticated camouflage systems and evidence that the humans had abandoned the positions hours earlier. They're operating from prepared, fallback positions we can't detect from our current location. What Sergeant Dexlar didn't know was that Staff Sergeant Maria Vasquez had been watching his forces through her rifle scope from a position nearly 3 kilometers away. She had observed their confusion, their frustration, and their growing fear as they realized they were facing an enemy unlike anything their training had prepared them for. "Range to the lunar outpost," she whispered to her spotter. Corporal Thompson checked his calculations again, accounting for the reduced gravity and vacuum conditions on the lunar surface. 3,847 meters. No atmospheric interference, but we'll need to account for reduced gravitational effects on bullet trajectory. Can the Barrett reach that far? Theoretically, yes. The bullet will maintain velocity much longer in vacuum. But the shot angle is extreme, nearly 60 degrees elevation. We've never attempted anything like this. Vasquez studied the alien outpost through her scope. The facility's design was impressive: energy barriers, advanced sensors, automated defense systems. But, like everything else about these aliens, it had been designed to counter threats they understood. They had never considered the possibility of precision fire from an enemy who was willing to attempt the impossible. "What's our target?" Thompson asked. "The command antenna array. If we can disable their communications, they can't call for reinforcements or coordinate with their space fleet." "Maria," Thompson's voice carried a note of concern. "That's a 3.5-kilometer shot at a 60-degree angle targeting a piece of equipment, maybe 2 meters wide. The slightest miscalculation will result in a miss," Vasquez finished. "Which is why we're not going to miscalculate." She settled into her firing position with the deliberate precision of someone who had spent 15 years perfecting this exact moment. Her breathing slowed to an almost meditative rhythm. Her heartbeat steadied despite the magnitude of what she was attempting. The world narrowed to the view through her scope, a distant structure on an alien world, defended by technology she didn't understand, occupied by enemies who had vastly underestimated the species they were facing. The Barrett M107 fired with a sound that echoed across the Colorado Valley like thunder. The .50 caliber bullet left the barrel at maximum velocity, following a trajectory that carried it up through Earth's atmosphere, through the vacuum of space, and down to the lunar surface in a flight path that lasted nearly 8 seconds. Captain Zergoth was reviewing tactical displays when the main communication array exploded in a shower of sparks and debris. Emergency alarms began wailing throughout the outpost as primary communications went offline, cutting the base off from the fleet above. "What happened?" he demanded of his technical staff. "Sir," the chief engineer's voice carried a note of impossible confusion. "Something just destroyed our primary antenna. But our sensors show no incoming projectiles, no energy discharges, no hostile contacts anywhere within range." "Then what caused the explosion?" The answer came from the base's external cameras, which had been automatically reviewing the last few seconds of recorded footage. The engineer's face went pale as he processed what the recording showed. "Sir," he said slowly, "I believe we've been shot from the surface of the planet at a range of approximately 3,800 meters. The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. These humans had just successfully engaged a target on the lunar surface using a handheld weapon fired from their planetary surface. It was a feat that should have been impossible with any technology their species possessed. "Send a message to the dominant thunder," Captain Zurgoth ordered quietly. "Inform Admiral Zentar that we are requesting immediate evacuation of all surface and lunar personnel. Sir, tell him that we have encountered a species whose military capabilities were grossly underestimated by our intelligence analysis. These humans have demonstrated tactical superiority through methods we cannot counter with current technology." Admiral Zentar received the evacuation request 30 minutes later, just as his own sensor officers reported that long-range human optical equipment was now tracking the dominant thunder itself. Somehow, using primitive telescopic technology, the humans had managed to observe and target a starship in high orbit. "Sir," Commander Velnash approached with a communication tablet, "we've received a transmission from the human leadership. They're requesting a ceasefire and negotiations." "Negotiations?" Zentar's mandibles clicked with bitter amusement. "They want to negotiate after they've systematically eliminated our forces using primitive weapons." "Sir, the transmission includes tactical analysis data that they claim proves their military doctrine could be scaled up to counter any level of force we might deploy. They're offering to demonstrate restraint in exchange for diplomatic contact." Admiral Zentar studied the data packet the humans had transmitted. Mathematical calculations showing how their sniper doctrine could be adapted for space-based operations. Technical specifications for weapons that could theoretically engage targets in orbit. Most disturbing of all, personality profiles suggesting that humans actually enjoyed the challenge of overcoming superior technology through individual skill and tactical innovation. "Are they threatening us?" "No, sir. They're offering us a choice. We can continue this engagement and lose more personnel to an enemy we clearly don't understand, or we can acknowledge that our initial assessment was flawed and begin discussions as equals." For the first time in his military career, Admiral Zentar found himself considering surrender to a technologically inferior force. But as he studied the tactical analysis, he realized it wasn't really surrender. It was acknowledgement of a fundamental truth his species had missed. "Open a communication channel to the human leadership," he ordered. "Sir, Commander Velnash, in 40 years of military service, I have never encountered an enemy that defeated superior technology through pure individual skill and tactical innovation. These humans haven't just proven they can fight, they've proven they can think. And that may be more dangerous than any weapon we possess." The communication channel opened, revealing the image of General Patricia Hayes in the underground command bunker. Her weathered face showed the calm confidence of someone who had just demonstrated humanity's capabilities without having to destroy an entire alien force to make her point. "Admiral," General Hayes began, "I believe we have some things to discuss." Admiral Zentar looked at the tactical displays, showing his decimated forces, then back at the human leader who had orchestrated their defeat using weapons his species considered primitive. "General Hayes," he replied with newfound respect, "I believe we do, and I owe you an apology. We came here believing we understood your species' capabilities. We were incorrect, Admiral. General Hayes smiled slightly. Mocking humans is always a mistake. But recognizing that mistake, that's the beginning of wisdom. As communication protocols were established between the two fleets, word began spreading throughout the Galactic Council about the small blue planet whose inhabitants had just proven that sometimes the most advanced technology in the universe was no match for patience, precision, and the willingness to take the perfect shot. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through superior technology, but through something far more dangerous: superior people.